I'm going to work on this wooden cutout with resin and take it up a notch. So what can we do with this simple cutout and make it look interesting? Hang on. Howdy, howdy, everybody. So this is Clara Lawrence, but you guys already know that because I'm on my YouTube channel. Anyway, I wanted to do a follow-up on the project I worked on with my takeover with ATD Studios. Uh-oh, somebody's talking to me.
Bobby, say hello. Say hello.
So I've used mica powders, and these are super, super fine powders. These are the colors I use. Color Obsession, Red Pearl, Purple Topaz, which is a gorgeous, like, deep grape color. Another mica powder, Color Obsession Bronze, and an Interference Gold by Bling It. And all these colors are on ATD's website. So use the code Howdy to get a little extra off. And what I've done is I did a base spray on this with a little bit of purple, a little bit of gold. Sometimes micas can come off transparent and you can see the color through it. But here's the thing with waking up the micas, and I get that from my buddy Rhonda Draculis over at RK3 Designs. And I thought I would apply it to an art piece here. So what we've done is I very loosely put the colors on, and then went and did kind of a little stippling. We were kind of calling it tickling, and it gives a slight blend of colors there. And you can see a texture a little bit where there's some highs and lows with the micas. Now, when I leave this alone for about an hour, these micas are gonna settle down, and I can come back and redo the tickling. It'll bring them back up to the surface. And I may have to do it again because this is our coat and it's got a super long working time. But you get it to where you're really getting these long sticky threads. And you got to be careful. If you don't want any of those long sticky threads, stop sooner. But what it'll do is it'll give a lot of texture to this piece. And apparently I got a couple bubbles there, so I got to hit it with some heat. And another trick thing here is when you're doing this, if you do have to do heat, you do it super fast, because when you heat up this resin, it starts flowing again, those micas are gonna sink really quick. And I will come back later and show you how okay, I'm just gonna say it, tickle the dragon. All right, so I just went in about an hour after the live and did some more tickling right on top of the surface, obviously with a gloved hand. And you can see how it brought that texture up, and I carried the tickling, stippling, or however you want to call that, all the way around the tail. And then it will bring up some bubbles just because of the friction of the whole thing. And then this texture right here, literally I took my finger and swished it along the surface. So they're almost like brush strokes. May have to do that one more time so these textures will stay. But you can only get this kind of a treatment when you use mica powders. So that is one of the really cool things about micas. Let's see if I can show you this. Okay, so this is some resin here. It's been three and a half hours. And now remember, this is art coat. So we're gonna start getting some resistant and some, those are the strings I was talking about there, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm going across my piece and basically tapping it and bringing the micas to the surface. So wish me luck. Here we go. And what I mean by wishing me luck is that it might hold on to my gloves so much that I can't get it off. Seems to be doing okay. And you can work the strings out to your advantage by having them go over. And then you get additional texture and stuff. Ah! He wants to take my glove. Oh gosh, he's sure grabbing. You see these strings that are coming up. Please don't drop the phone. Please don't drop the phone. That's what is going on in my brain cells right now. Don't drop the phone. Don't drop the phone. That would be a big mess. So we're getting some texture in there. It looks really interesting. I'm gonna see if I can do, see some of the brush stroke remained, some of it did not. So I'm gonna do a little bit more and see if I can get some of that to stay. And I'm not worried about the rough edge of it. I'm just gliding it across. You see how thick it is. It wants to grab. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to do a little more over here. And resin self-leveling. It's going to want to level out. But just a little bit on the edges here. I'm going to try and torch this to get rid of some of the bubbles, but I also have to locate a torch. I'm not in my studio, so it gets a little tricky. Ah. And you can take advantage of it and make your strings go over, and you'll get these little, let's see, do I have a clean finger? One clean finger. I'll zoom in real quick. So you can get it so that your strings go across, and you'll get these little lines. I'm like so zoomed in, but I wanted to let you guys see the texture. And from different angles, you can see the colors. Like that can be all copper, and then you're seeing some of the purple show through. So it gets really fun. Okay, I lied. I'm sorry. I came back in one more time. It was right after I torched it, but I ended up making some long strokes right in here, and I'm super excited about it because it definitely gives that nice circular feel, that nice movement. So I'm real happy with that. Let's see if I can. All right, here's the results for the next day. And I am really happy with the texture that remained. The brush strokes are intact. The rough, scaly-like texture is in place. So time to move on to the next step. Okay, it's official. It's time for the next step. I wanted to create a little bit of an illustrative look to this piece. I do my go-tos with the markers. What I've done first, the white lines are actually a chalk marker, which works so great on resin because it's a slick surface and it's a water removal type of a chalk marker. So what I do is I kind of get an idea of how I want the shape to be, how I want any kind of movement to be, and we'll sketch that out with the chalk lines. Then when I'm liking where this is going, I refine the drawing a little bit more with the Posca pen, and I usually get kind of a medium point to a fine point with the black Posca pens. We'll draw that out, and as soon as I like where that's going, then I get a paper towel that has a little bit of water on it, wipe off the chalk marker, and then continue with my illustrations. A lot of times I also like to use the Molotow chrome markers, and those are so fun because it's like drawing lines with a mirror.
And in some areas where it has more of the solid color fill-ins, you can literally see reflections, even of you if you want. But I played with the two on top of a lot of the resin colors because they seem to work really well. And I just play by ear as far as figuring out how much black or how much chrome I want to put in. A lot of times it's because you're working with a busy background, you need some kind of contrast to stand out. So it's a matter of each individual piece and how much you add. For example, the horns that were coming off the back of the neck, at first I was going to have a silver line in there, and then the further along the piece got, those lines were disappearing, and it needed some kind of extra punch of the chrome. So I decided to make the scale solid and then just use some black to bring in the details. I'm really happy with how this little guy turned out. In fact, somebody else was as well, because Erica did another dragon piece, and the person who bought it said, hey, can you have Clara draw on it too? So you never know. These added little touches really can bring up a piece to another level. So try it out. So this is a good way to embellish those simple shapes that you want to resin on, do acrylic pouring on, any kind of application like that. By just adding simple line arts or just decorative items, it can really bump it up quite a bit. All right, here's the final results of this little guy. I think he turned out pretty cool. I am willing to do this over and over again. It's fun doing little illustrations like this. All right, if you've hung on this long, I really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. I'm going to include links down below for the pins I used. You guys know what resin I used is Stone Coat Art Coat resin. And all my colors, I get them from Artist to Death. Use the code Howdy to get a little extra off. And if you like dragons, check out this playlist because there's plenty of dragons to be had. Later, y'all.